Hey everybody, so now that we're a few weeks into the season, I want to start talking about who the worst team is, at least so far, because it's not who we thought it was going, or who many of us thought it was going to be. I think going into this season, I know I thought that the Ottawa Senators were going to be the worst team in the league, and it wasn't going to be close. I don't think I was alone in thinking that. I think a lot of people who follow the NHL thought that Ottawa was probably going to be the worst team this year. They were expected to be really, really bad. So far, Ottawa has a winning record. They're 3-2-1 through 6 games, and they have actually looked pretty, okay. They're certainly not a team I expect to have a winning record at the end of the year, but they've looked all right so far. Some of their kids are playing really, really well, and there's a lot of guys on that team who you've probably never heard of before, but they're playing pretty good hockey. So right now, at least, Ottawa is definitely not the worst team in the league. So, who is? For my money, there is one team right now that stands out as by far the worst team, and they have yet to win a game this year. And their last couple games have been absolutely horrendous, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. For my money, right now, the Detroit Red Wings are the worst team in the NHL. They've just looked awful, especially the last couple of games, and things don't look to be getting any better there. Here we go with Detroit. Through 6 games, they are 0-4-2. They have 14 goals for, 30 goals against in 6 games. They're giving up 5 goals a game. And their last 2 games have been especially bad. Last week they lost to Boston on Saturday 8-2, and then they lost on Monday night to Montreal 7-3. So they've given up 15 goals in their last 2 games. Their first 4 games of the year were all pretty close games. They weren't blowouts. Even though Detroit didn't win, a couple of them went to overtime. They weren't that bad. And then the last couple games, Detroit has just looked abysmal. I watched the game against Boston on Saturday afternoon, and oh my God, was Detroit terrible. They actually played okay for the first 10 minutes or so of the game, but after that, they just got dominated. Their defense is... they've got guys playing on their defense that I've never even heard of. Mike Green's out, Trevor Daley's out, Danny DeKeyser's out. They've got some, important players missing from the lineup, which obviously doesn't help. But, man, they looked awful. And, I mean, some of these guys they have playing defense, Joe Hicketts, I've never heard of him before this year. Who else back there? I don't even remember these guys' names. Philip Hronek, he was playing. There was one more European, Libor Sulak, I think his name was, something like that. I mean, guys that completely had never even heard of. And they're playing, heavy NHL minutes for this Red Wings team. They're not much better offensively. Watching that game, it felt like Dylan Larkin was doing everything by himself. He got no help offensively. It felt like, watching that game, it felt like it was Dylan Larkin versus the entire Boston Bruins. Because he was the only one out there that looked like he was trying to do anything. I expected a lot more from Anthony Mantha. He looked disinterested and completely out of the game. Didn't even notice him really until the third period, when he somewhat attempted to fight Charlie McAvoy and then tried to fight McAvoy but got Kevin Miller instead, and then wasn't going to fight Kevin Miller, so the whole thing went down there. A couple of roughing penalties out of it, but Mantha did not impress me at all on Saturday. Tyler Bertuzzi was virtually unnoticeable. He didn't do anything offensively or physically on Saturday. He did against Montreal. We'll get to that, but overall, that team, the Detroit, just looked so lifeless and like they didn't even want to be there. And at least Ottawa, they don't have a great lineup. They're putting up a fight. Montreal doesn't have a great lineup. They're putting up a fight. Vancouver thought they were going to be really bad. They're like 4-2 or something through the first few games. They're putting up a fight. This Detroit team is not even putting up a fight. In that game against Boston, there was no pushback from the Red Wings at all. Early in the game, Noel Acciari for Boston and Dylan Larkin kind of got into a shoving contest after a couple hits were thrown. And then Acciari dropped his gloves, and Larkin wanted absolutely nothing to do with it, just skated away, wanted nothing to do with it. And then later in the game, Mantha and McAvoy were going at it, and Kevin Miller ended up getting between them. Mantha wanted nothing to do with Kevin Miller, which I totally don't blame him for. I wouldn't either. But he was trying to go at McAvoy and then wouldn't step up when an actual tough guy came in to defend McAvoy. And then at the very end of the game, Nick Jensen threw a hit on Ryan Donato, and Chris Wagner came in to challenge him and he dropped the gloves, and Jensen wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. So not only did Detroit lose 8-2 and get absolutely embarrassed, they had zero pushback physically at all. They did nothing physical throughout the game. They looked like a team that just did not want to be there and was dead before the game even started. And then I did not see the game in Montreal, but I did see Tyler Bertuzzi's fight with Xavier Ouellet. So maybe there was a little more of a pushback in that game, but still, they lost 7-3. That's not even close. So for my money, Detroit is the worst team in the league right now. They have looked really, really bad from what I've seen of them. And obviously the scores of their last two games show how bad they're playing right now. I mean, at some point you've got to get sick of losing, I would think. You're 6 games into the season and you haven't won yet. Not a single game. I mean, that just sucks. You'd think that they'd come out, really ready to play one of these nights, but it hasn't happened yet. So Ottawa, I think, is surprising everyone by playing some really good hockey right now. I wouldn't say really good hockey, but they're playing decent hockey right now. They look like an NHL team, and for a lot of us, we expected Ottawa to not even look like an NHL team this year. They've been okay. Detroit, they look really bad. So for my money, Detroit is the worst team in the NHL right now. I don't know if that's going to keep up all season long. They're certainly not a good team, but I don't know if they'll be this bad the whole season. But right now, to start the season, they are really, really bad. So let me know who you think is the worst team down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me with Detroit, or do you think someone else has been worse so far this year? Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.